All right. Hey, everybody. Alex with Wild Montana Action Fund back with you one more time. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Jacob Foster, who is our political and state policy manager, making sure I got that right. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing well. I am stationed up in my wife's office that she's kindly loaned to me today
Nice.
in an otherwise rainy Missoula morning. So,
Yeah. I think this is one of those rare days where everywhere else is just as gray and wet as Missoula is, right?
yeah, it might
Missoula
be.
weather taking over the state. Yeah, I hope you're not getting snowed on too much at least. Lovely mid-June day.
We're avoiding that. No, my tomatoes would
Oh
be
man.
pretty upset.
Yeah, seriously. I got a little lemon tree a while back and I had it outside and I was like, bring it in last night before it gets too. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are here to talk about Wild Montana Action Fund's canvas efforts. Jacob is the all-star lead of our canvassing team, among many other things. And if you don't know what canvassing is, you've experienced it. It is people out on the street knocking on doors, having conversations with voters and prospective voters. And it's something that Wild Montana Action Fund has really leaned into this election cycle, both for the primary and for the general election come November. So Jacob's really the man who is responsible for making that effort happen, and it's a huge amount of work. And we're super grateful for everything that he's done. But Jacob, can you tell us a little bit about what this canvas is and what it's all about? Like why are we knocking on people's doors and having conversations?
Yeah, and I might actually start a little higher level and talk a little
Sure.
bit more about what canvassing is and why
All
we
right.
choose that approach. So I think canvassing aligns really well with Wild Montana Action Fund's values of having organizing people at the grassroots level, taking Montanans and Montana voters and amplifying their voices when it comes to public lands issues. And when we're canvassing, we are oftentimes going door to door. Maybe sometimes we're standing somewhere public or busy with a clipboard. Sometimes we might even be making phone calls, but the goal is to have conversations with Montana voters about issues that we all care about, like public lands, sometimes democracy, and who's going to be in office and who's going to represent the issues that we care about the most. Um, and so a typical day for a canvasser looks like they're knocking doors of voters in Montana. In knocking voters' doors in Montana. They're talking to folks um, about public lands and about different issues. And really, what we're doing when we knock doors is we strike up the conversation by finding shared ground, by listening to folks. And we have a window, a brief period of time to create a relationship with someone. Um, and during that time, we're trying to build trust, talk about shared values. And then from there, we have an opportunity to tell them why we're there and why it matters for them to um, care about public lands or care about an issue that we're knocking doors on. And this is an incredibly effective technique. Um, and I think a big reason for that is that um, it seems that more and more people are interacting like we are today, which is behind a screen and less in person. And so when people have an opportunity to interact in person, I think that brings out a different side of people. And I think that gives people opportunities to share things that have been weighing heavily on them and talk about things they're really excited about. And public land seems to be one of those centered issues that a lot of Montanans care about. So it's been really effective, and we're really excited to continue doing that throughout the summer.
Yeah. I mean, just the concept of talking to someone in person sounds great. Feels like it's been years.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the actual Canvas team. Like, who are the people out knocking on doors and having conversations?
Yeah, we have a pretty strong Canvas team right now. We have about 10 folks that are on the team. And we have a mixture of people. We have a lot of students, of course, a lot of former students at the University of Montana that are trying to engage with political issues and trying to engage with conservation advocacy in Montana at the state level. We have a wildland firefighter this year, pardon me, wildland firefighter this year that wanted to take the work that he was doing in the woods and find a way to connect with people about the issues that affect our public lands, like wildland fire. Um, we have a former motorcycle mechanic that decided that a while ago that he wanted to connect with nature and connect with um, the places that our life in Montana really support on or are supported by and rely on, um, and decided to go find the places where our drinking water comes from and learn about trees in Montana. So we have a pretty diverse cast of canvassers on our team. All are really great. All are approaching this work for slightly different reasons, but all share a love for Montana's public lands.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good segue into my next question, which is about the substance of the canvas itself. So, I mean, I feel like we all agree basically across the, political spectrum, no matter where we live in the state, that, public lands are really central to our quality of life, central to why we choose to be here, central to our economy, central to our health. I could keep going. And we see this in, poll after poll after poll. Sort of no matter what the questions are, the responses come back. Yes, I support public lands. So what's the line that we're drawing between this canvas specifically and public land issues electorally speaking? Like, what are the people knocking doors actually talking to voters about? There are probably a handful of things, but we can, take them one at a time.
Yeah, so to what you said, 83% of Montanans claim that when they fill out their ballot, public lands are one of the top issues that help them decide a candidate. Um, One of the issues that Wild Montana Action Fund is working on this summer is ensuring that we are electing public land champions in office. And we're doing that by educating voters on the doors about which candidates are good on public lands issues. This is a bipartisan suite of candidates, because really, regardless of party, there are opportunities for people to be good on public lands issues. We are also working on a couple of ballot
Yeah.
initiatives.
Can I just interrupt real quick? Sorry.
Absolutely.
If you do want to learn more about, what makes someone a public lands champion, the not the political positions they have to hold, but sort of the ways they have to vote and the stances they have to have on issues, I'd encourage you to go to wildmontanaaction.org. We've got a whole series, I think a 7-part series breaking down specific characteristics of a public lands champion. We'll drop a link somewhere around here. You can also go check out my interview with Noah Marion, our state policy director. Too many titles to keep straight.
State policy and political director.
There
Yeah.
you go. When Noah and I talked pretty in depth about what it means to be a public lands champion too. So I'd encourage you to go check those out if you want more. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jake.
That's a great segue. And if you're curious about what a public land champion doesn't look like, above Alex's left shoulder, so the right side of his screen, you'll see Cal Conman in his pay to play ranch. You can check out Wild Montana Action Fund's humorous series of satire videos around what a public lands champion may not look like in Montana.
A
So yeah,
natural born plugger right here.
We will be, like I said, working on some candidate races. But one of our goals, our missions earlier this year, and one that I'm pretty proud to say that we helped accomplish, had a hand in accomplishing, was getting two ballot initiatives, two citizens initiatives on the ballot that will have election reform implications in Montana. And those are Constitutional Initiative 126 and 127. And another plug, I believe Alex and Kasia Booker, our deputy director, had a really in-depth conversation about these initiatives already. So I won't go too much in depth, but we do have a blog as well with more information. I will say though, in order to get a citizens initiative on the ballot, um, I'll take a step back. There are two ways to amend the Constitution in Montana. Um, oh, somehow that resulted in balloons.
All right. Congratulations,
Celebration.
I guess.
Uh,
Yeah, something happened.
the legislature can, with two-thirds majority, amend Montana state constitution, and then that amendment makes its way on the ballot, and Montana voters have the final say. And then there's also a citizens initiative, which is what these two initiatives are, in which 10% of voters, there's a distribution of 10% of folks that voted for the governor in the last race, and then a distribution of 40% of the House districts that we need to collect signatures in Montana. And so in order to get these two initiatives that will improve Montana's elections, provide more accountability for candidates, and give Montana voters more and better choices, we were a part of a team that was collecting signatures across the state. And so we started in Missoula and really focused on the University of Montana campus so that we could talk to young people and new voters that were just learning about some of these issues. And so we got to introduce them to these initiatives. And then we moved to one of Montana's most notable communities, the richest hill, Butte, Montana. And we spent 3 weeks in Butte, talking to really incredible people. First out in the community, having good conversations with people. We had a couple of successful volunteer events. And then the final week we spent canvassing, going door to door, talking to folks in Butte about these electoral reforms and how it will improve or elevate their voice during the election. And I'm really proud to say that it it's early, but it looks like we qualified House District 72, House District 73, and House District 74 in Butte, which are the three major districts in that community. So I'm really proud of our team, the conversations they had, and the success of our work on these initiatives.
And I've seen some news coming out over the last week or so suggesting that the team that we were a part of has gathered enough signatures to actually get these initiatives on the ballot, which means that voters will be able to vote on them come November. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. The organizations that have been helping and the many volunteers that have been helping collect signatures, were able to collect, I think, close to 200,000 signatures is what they said. So that was well over the margin needed in order to qualify, which shows that a lot of Montanans support election reform, and having a more fair election. So I'm excited to see those on our November ballot, and I hope that Wild Montana Action Fund supporters vote in favor of those.
Right on. That's great. I mean, that's a huge huge percentage of the population of the whole state, let alone the voting population. So great job. Thanks for that. Keep your eye out for the ballot initiatives come November. We'll restore freedom, accountability, and choice to Montana's elections. And if you want more info, check out some of the links. Check out my interview with Kasia. You can visit wildmontanaaction.org/election reform, or another good resource would be just to Google Montanans for Election Reform, which is another organization doing good work on this, and they have a lot of good resources. Um, so what else is the canvas working on, right? There's more than just election reform, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we are doing some candidate races. We're working on some candidate elections in Montana. Um, at a high level, we are going to be doing some what's called persuasion and education canvassing. We're going to be going door to door, talking to voters about these candidates, talking to them about public lands issues, and tying the two issues together, hoping that folks see that the candidates that we're supporting as an organization truly are the public land champions we need to elect in Montana. And then as we near the election, we will be changing our approach. We'll go from educating and trying to persuade Montana voters to really getting folks out to vote and ensuring that Wild Montana Action Fund supporters and all public land supporters across Montana turn in their ballot. This is an incredibly important election. We hear it every 2 years and especially every 4 years. But this is going to be one of the most important elections, and the effects on our public lands are going to be pretty widespread, depending on who gets into office in some cases. It will be our goal to communicate with our wonderful supporters, most of whom are Montana voters, and ensure that they turn in their ballot in November, that their ballot gets checked and counted, and that they do so in an informed manner.
Mhm. Sounds like a pretty heavy lift between now and November.
We'll be knocking tens of thousands of doors and talking to thousands of voters between now and then. So it
Wow.
is, but it's well worth the effort.
Yeah. Will there be chances for people to help out? Like if someone wants to volunteer, join the get out the vote efforts, anything like that?
Yeah, Alex, I'm really glad you asked. We are going to have a few opportunities for volunteers to step in and help out. And I would encourage Wild Montana Action Fund supporters to consider this, because as we mentioned, this is an important election season. First, we will be, and I believe Noah is helping manage this. We'll be collecting signatures on postcards. We have a annual or a semi-annual public land vote pledge, where we have postcards that we ask voters to fill out, and then we ultimately mail it back to them, where folks pledge to vote for public lands in the November election. That is a great way to remind people come November about the election and ensure they vote. And it's a great way to help people loudly, and in most cases proudly, oftentimes loudly, commit to their support for public lands as well. And so if you want to help collect vote pledges, please reach out to either myself or our state policy and political director, Noah Marion. Similarly, alongside that collection, there comes a lot of data entry. And so we would love, love, love to have some folks help us enter some data. And so if that's more your forte, if going out and talking to strangers isn't your preferred method of volunteerism, we certainly have a job for you as well. And then as we near the election day, the last few weeks of October, the first week of November, we're going to have a lot of get out the vote opportunities as well. And so if you want to call voters and talk to folks and ensure they have the resources they need to hand their ballot in on election day, which is November 5th this year, then we will have some phone banks available for you as well. We have a volunteer link. I don't remember what that link is, but maybe Alex can make that appear on the screen.
Try my best. At the very least, I can say the easiest way to find out about any of this will just be to join the Wild Montana Action Fund email list, and we'll definitely send out some updates when there are updates to send. And I'll drop a link below this video too. So that's
Yes.
the simplest way to stay in the loop.
Yeah, but we would love your help. Many hands make light work. And if there was ever a year to volunteer, honestly, to donate and to support our efforts to protect public lands and public land champions in Montana, or ensure that public land champions are being elected and helping us protect public lands, this is the year. So we appreciate it.
All right. Well, that seems like as good a place as any to leave it. Jacob, thanks for taking a couple minutes out of your day wrangling canvassers and making sure this effort on the ground keeps moving forward. Really appreciate all you're doing. And yeah, good to talk to you. We'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
Yeah.